The Arizona sun hung heavy over the mesa, washing the canyon walls in gold. Clara Hayes had been riding since dawn, chasing the ghost of her father through a land that seemed older than time. Every hoofbeat of her mare echoed her pulse, fast, desperate, determined. She wasn't supposed to be here. The locals called this region Apache Ridge, and they whispered that it tested anyone who dared step upon it. But her father had vanished here, and the last page of his journal had carried a single line: "Where the earth meets the sky, truth waits for the one who listens." She found the narrow trail just as the sun began to wane. It twisted along the cliffside, a thin vein carved into crimson stone. The wind shrieked below, carrying with it the smell of dust and the weight of centuries. She swallowed hard. If this was where her father had gone, then this was where she would follow. A voice came from behind her, calm, low, carrying the authority of the land itself. "Don't look down." She turned sharply. A man stood a few yards back, tall, broad-shouldered, his braids glinting with beads of turquoise. His eyes were deep and amber, reflecting the sunset. "My name's Tazzy," he said. "White Mountain Apache. You shouldn't walk that trail alone." Clara tightened her grip on the reins. "I'm looking for someone. My father, Samuel Hayes. He disappeared here a year ago." Tazzy's gaze didn't waver. "I know that name. The spirits remember him." Her heart lurched. "Then you know where he is." Tazzy hesitated, then looked toward the canyon. "I know where he was." The words chilled her, but she nodded. "Then take me there." He studied her for a long moment, then swung onto his horse. "Follow me, and whatever happens, don't look down." The trail narrowed until it was barely a ledge. The wind screamed against their faces. Below, the canyon opened like the mouth of the earth. Clara's stomach twisted, but she kept her eyes on Tazzy's back. Each step forward was a battle between courage and terror. They reached a curve where half the rock had fallen away, leaving only a broken bridge of stone. Tazzy dismounted and looked over the edge. "We cross here," he said. "One at a time." Clara stared at the gap. It was barely wide enough for her boots. Her breath caught. "There's got to be another way." "There isn't." His tone softened. "If you fall, the canyon will take your name. Step where I step." He went first, moving with the grace of a hawk. Then he turned and reached for her hand. She followed, her heart hammering. The stone shifted under her foot, crumbling away. She gasped, clinging to him. "Tazzy, hold on," he shouted. His fingers locked around hers. For an instant, the world tilted, the cliff shuddered, pebbles cascading into the abyss. Then, with a desperate pull, he dragged her onto solid ground. They fell together, breathless. Clara looked back. The ledge behind them collapsed in a roar of falling stone, vanishing into dust. She stared in silence, shaking. "I told you," he said quietly. "The land decides who walks it." When she finally found her voice, it was barely a whisper. "You could have let me fall." "I could have," he said. "But you're not finished yet." They camped under the cliff, the firelight flickering on ancient markings carved into the stone, circles, spirals, and lines that glowed faintly in the night. Clara traced them with her fingers. "My father drew these in his notes. He thought they were a map." Tazzy nodded. "A map of the soul. The old ones said this trail leads to the heart of the earth, where truth reveals itself. But truth here costs blood." Clara stared into the flames. "Then tell me what happened to him." Tazzy's eyes reflected the fire. "Your father came here with good intentions. He said he wanted to understand. But the land does not give itself to curiosity. It only answers to respect. I warned him to turn back. He didn't listen. He crossed the heart at dawn. And," Tazzy's jaw tightened, "the cliff broke. Just like today. Only this time, no hand reached for him." The silence between them grew heavy. The desert night whispered around them. The crackle of fire, the sigh of the wind, the echo of loss. Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Then I'll find where he fell. I'll finish what he started." Tazzy looked at her long and hard. "If you do, You must be ready for what you'll see. The mountain remembers everything. At dawn they rode higher. The cliffs burned red in the early light, and the air thinned until each breath felt sacred. Clara's grief had hardened into purpose. She wasn't leaving until she found the truth. They stopped at a ridge where the rock split open into a natural arch. Symbols covered every surface, shapes that seemed to shimmer with the sunrise. Beyond the arch lay a hollow plateau, surrounded by cliffs like the walls of a forgotten temple. The wind there was still, too still. This is the heart, Tazi said. Your father stood right where you're standing. Clara dismounted, walking slowly toward the center. The ground beneath her feet seemed to hum. She knelt, brushing away dust, and froze. Half buried in the sand lay a leather journal, its edges charred by sun and time. Her father's handwriting. Her throat tightened as she opened it. The last entry read, "They warned me the mountain remembers. If anyone finds this, tell Clara, listen to the wind. It carries voices older than man." A sudden gust ripped through the plateau, snatching the pages from her hand. They whirled around her like snow, then scattered into the canyon. The wind rose, howling now, not empty, but filled with whispers, as if the mountain itself was speaking. Clara staggered back. "Tazi, do you hear that?" He nodded, eyes closed. "He's calling you." "What do you mean?" "The mountain took him because he asked for truth. But it gives you a choice, to leave or to listen." The whispers grew louder, shaping themselves into faint words. Clara's eyes widened. It was her father's voice. "Clara, don't be afraid. The truth isn't in stone, it's in how you see." Tears blurred her vision. "Dad, where are you?" The ground beneath her trembled. A crack split the earth at her feet. She fell to her knees, clutching the journal to her chest. Light burst from the fissure, a golden glow that swallowed everything. For a heartbeat she saw images in the brilliance. Her father smiling, the ancient tribes dancing, Tazi's ancestors guarding the cliffs. Then the light faded, and silence returned. When she looked up, the crack had closed. The markings around the plateau now shone faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. She felt calm wash over her. The fear, the grief, all of it lifted. It was as if the land itself had forgiven her father's trespass through her understanding. Tazi stepped closer. He's part of the mountain now. His truth stays here, but his spirit walks free. Clara nodded slowly, a tear tracing her cheek. "Then I can let him go." She stood at the edge of the plateau, looking over the canyon. The same wind that had nearly killed her now felt gentle, almost protective. She whispered to it, "Thank you." Tazi mounted his horse. "You've seen what most never do. Now you carry it. Protect it." She smiled faintly. "I will." They rode down the trail together in silence. When they reached the place where the cliff had crumbled, Clara turned for one last look. The mountain glowed in the sunset, and for an instant she could swear she saw a figure standing on the ridge, tall, familiar, waving. Her father. "Goodbye," she whispered. That night, back in the small desert town, Clara sat outside the inn beneath a canopy of stars. She opened her father's journal again. The pages that had been scattered had somehow returned, every one of them. On the last, a new line appeared, written in the same hand. "You found me where the sky met the earth." She smiled through her tears. Tazi's words echoed in her mind. The mountain remembers. As dawn colored the world gold again, she knew she'd never be the same. The desert had taken something from her, but it had also given her something eternal, faith, courage, and peaceful. If this story moved you, don't forget to hit subscribe, and join us for more tales of courage, mystery, and the power of the human spirit. 3 months had passed since Clara Hayes left Apache Ridge, but the desert had never left her. Back in Phoenix, the city lights felt harsh, the noise unnatural. She worked again at the museum where her father once lectured, cataloging artifacts that now seemed hollow, souvenirs of a world that forgot how to listen. At night, she would sit by her apartment window and stare at the far horizon, wondering if the mountain still whispered her name. One morning, As the dawnlight spilled across her desk, she found something strange among her father's papers, an envelope she was sure hadn't been there before. On the front, in his handwriting, were the words, "For Clara, when she's ready to see." Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single folded sheet of paper and a small stone, smooth, red, and warm to the touch, carved with the same spiral symbol she'd seen glowing on the canyon walls. The note said only, "The truth you carry is alive. Return when the wind calls." That night, a storm rolled across the desert. The wind howled like a voice she remembered. She stood by her window, the stone in her palm, and whispered, "I hear you." The lights flickered. A gust tore through the open window, scattering the pages of her work like white birds. The air shimmered, and for an instant, she saw him. Her father, not as a ghost, but as light, standing in the corner of the room. He smiled, the same soft smile she'd seen in childhood when he'd tell her bedtime stories. "Dad," she breathed. "You listened," he said, his voice gentle as wind. "The mountain remembers. And now, it remembers you." The light faded, leaving her alone again, but the room felt different, full, alive. She knew what she had to do. 2 days later, Clara rode once more toward the ridge, the same mare beneath her, the red stone tied around her neck. When she reached the edge of the canyon, the land seemed to welcome her this time, the wind softer, the sky deeper. She found Tazzy waiting beside a campfire, as if he'd known she would return. "You came back," he said with a faint smile. "The wind called," she answered. He nodded. "Then it's time." They climbed again, following the same trail where fear had once ruled her. But now, the cliffs didn't threaten, they guided. The broken path that had nearly killed her was whole again, as if healed by unseen hands. When they reached the plateau, the heart of the earth, it glowed beneath the rising sun. Tazzy stopped at the archway and motioned for her to go alone. "The mountain speaks to those who've earned its voice. I can't walk this part with you." Clara hesitated, then stepped forward. The air thick,